10 minutes to your health.
At some point in our lives, we've all had to endure that person next to us whose body odor isn't exactly welcoming. And you may have wondered what could have contributed to that, or maybe you've found reasons that are probably not the reasons. So we've got on set medical internist Dr. Samantha Nicholson-Spence, and she's going to provide some tips and explain how to keep underarm odor under control. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Smile Jamaica. It's morning time, Doc. First of all, explain to me what's a medical internist.
Okay, an internist is a specialist in the field of medicine.
Right.
So when you go to medical school, you kind of learn a little of everything. You learn some medicine, you learn some surgery, you learn some gynecology. And then whilst you're doing that field, you may find that you gravitate to a certain field. So I personally gravitated to medicine. So diseases of the heart, the lung, the kidney, all the organs of the body. That's my area. So I specialize in them all.
All right. So a lot of times when people think about body odor, the first thing they jump at is hygiene.
Yes.
And they say, well, you know, that's why this is happening. Is that a logical thought?
Sometimes,
Yes.
many of the times actually it is related to hygiene, but every now and then you'll actually have patients coming in and they say, I'm doing everything right, I shower 2-3 times a day, but I still feel like this odor is just lingering. So it can occur even though you're adhering to the normal rules of hygiene.
So what are some of the things that may cause this? Because we're saying patients have come in, it means they themselves have recognized that there's a challenge. So what are some of the things?
So the main issue is sweat. So, and you know, despite your best effort, sometimes you just can't get a whole lot of sweat. So you just sweat, sweat, sweat. If there is a buildup of sweat, it can attract bacteria. Now, there's normally bacteria in everyone's skin. They live there. That's their home. When there's a lot of sweat present, they proliferate. And some of the bacteria produce chemicals that give you that musky, green smell that Jamaicans speak of. So one of the main ways to deal with the odor is one, to tackle the bacteria and also to tackle the sweat.
Okay.
But the sweat is the primary issue. So therefore, what it means for the patient is, or for the person actually, because it's not a disease. What you need to do when you need to use a proper antiperspirant, not just a deodorant or a roll-on or so. You need to read the label. It needs to be an antiperspirant. It needs to stop sweat. So if you're using an antiperspirant and you're still just sweating away, then that product is ineffective and you need to switch to something else. Now, there are some persons who say, I've used everything on the market. There is actually prescription strength antiperspirants, and there's also a few products that are not necessarily available locally, but in this day and age of online shopping, you can get these things easily, you know, online.
But talk to me about that, because I've seen so many different things online, and they're talking about, where's Clive? We're talking about the differences between what's an antiperspirant and what's a deodorant and what you should use, what you shouldn't use. Talk to me about the differences.
All right, so a deodorant it's basically for smell. So it masks smell. So it's something that smells sweet. So if you have a musky, if you have a bad odor, putting on deodorant is just going to try and mask that smell. But, you know, if you have a discerning nose, you may pick up that, it's just a sweet smell over what was there. Antiperspirant stops sweating, and they usually have a fragrance attached to them, unless you're buying an unscented. So they usually have deodorant in them, but they stop sweating. So no sweat, less of an environment that's therefore conducive to the growth.
But is that healthy? Because I've seen people say, now I see people talking about using salt and all kind of natural things because antiperspirant is blocking sweat and it shouldn't block sweat and things like that.
Right. I get that asked frequently, and that's a genuine concern, but the truth is it's healthy. So if you block sweat, because you're really just applying deodorant to the underarms. So if it is that you're not going to sweat from your underarms, then you're going to sweat elsewhere.
Yeah.
So your face can sweat, your chest, your back can sweat. Sweat can occur from anywhere. So just because you stop it from this one little area of your body is not going to be detrimental to you at all.
All right, so let's talk about some other things that may be happening with you. It may be hormonal.
Yes.
Talk to me about that one.
Now, one of the most common hormonal issues is that you have an overactive thyroid. If there's an overactive thyroid, your metabolism is high, your heart rate is high, so you tend to sweat a lot, you feel hot all the time, even when the time is cool. That is one of them that causes a lot of sweating, and then with a lot of sweating, of course, you can have the odor developing as well. Diabetes in itself can be associated with excessive sweating. It's not a common feature of diabetes. You shouldn't think just because I sweat a lot I have diabetes, but it can occur. Where you see it more commonly in diabetes, maybe as a side effect of the medication, or it may also occur because your blood sugar is low. At that time you feel dizzy, weak, you start having cold sweats, and you may black out if something is not done quickly to restore it.
All right, so that's the hormones, that's diabetes. Are there any other types of illnesses that may, I shouldn't say illnesses, but any other issues that may be associated with that? Is it always down to sweat, or is there, because you can probably not be as sweaty but still have an odor. So is there anything else?
So if there's a bacteria buildup on your skin, if that is the case, we will usually tell you to use an antibacterial soap and to bathe more often. If that is not controlling it, in rare cases, we may actually have to prescribe antibiotics. But that's very rare that is done, because usually just using the antiperspirant and the antibacterial soap would be usually
be
enough
to solve that.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting because what I'm hearing is that for some people it's a real challenge.
Yes.
It may be harder on some than others. And so if you find that you've tried a couple of things and it doesn't work, you can go to your doctor and say, I have this challenge and I need to have it fixed.
Right. Yes. And we usually will tell you these, conservative things that you can just do on your own. If that is not working, you need to go back to your doctor, because there are other options. So if sweat is the primary issue, there are procedures like Botox, which is available locally. And so it basically just cuts off sweat production from that gland. So that's something that can be done. Many years ago, not so much anymore, when it was such an issue before Botox, they actually did surgical procedures, actually cut out the area of the skin. The skin, yeah.
What?
Of course, I mean, that's not something that most persons would want to do, scarring and all of that. But that's how major of an issue can be for some persons, because it has psychological and social impact, separate and apart from the medical issues associated with it.
All right. Let me tell you something, but I've been to cold places though and seen people have that challenge as well.
Yes.
And right now, I mean, she's focusing on underarm, but I know that for a lot of people, the feet sweat.
Yes.
And because the feet sweat as well, then there's a challenge there.
Definitely. And it's the same things that we would do for the underarm. So you still can use the antiperspirant. I mean, you obviously use a separate one than the one that you're using for your armpit, but you can use the antiperspirant on the soles of the feet or on your palms as well for the sweaty palm, and see if that works. If that doesn't work, again, Botox is available.
You're suggesting that if you find that a particular brand or type of deodorant or antiperspirant no longer controls your odor like it used to, you may want to consider one that is marketed with men or athletes in mind. That's interesting, because people will probably think, I don't know why people are thinking that I haven't, because this is how I normally, this is the soap I always use. But I guess as you change, you get older, or you change your environment, then you have to try and change that as well.
Yes.
All right. You says there is hyperhidrosis?
Yes.
Heavy sweating.
Heavy sweating,
Talk
basically.
to me about that.
So that's excessive sweating beyond what is considered normally. So it's not even hot, and you're just wiping off sweat after you. You go to bed, you wake up, your bed sheets are soaked.
Right.
That sort of thing is hyperhidrosis. Now, hyperhidrosis tends to really occur mainly in the armpit is the problem, but some persons it can be the scalp. So they can't keep a good hairstyle because the hair is always wet. The face, you can't wear makeup, it's just always pouring right off of you. The chest, also under the breast area in women. And so that can lead also to fungus buildup, and a lot of them will have itching. And it can
darken the skin?
It darkens the skin, you get itching, and it can actually, you can get ulcers forming, sores forming. Those then can get infected, and it can get very complicated if nothing is done for it.
Yeah. So they should. So if you find that that's happening,
if that is happening,
that could be hyperthyroidism as well.
It may be due to hyperthyroidism, but sweating alone wouldn't necessarily make one think hyperthyroidism. You should
Yeah.
have other symptoms with it.
Okay.
You know, you should shaking, your heart beating fast, etc. But certainly if you go to the physician, we are going to investigate you for this because you just never know. You may not have all the symptoms, you may just have the one symptom. But generally when the patient comes in, they'll tell you, this is something that has been bothering me since childhood, since puberty. This has been occurring. This has been many years. This didn't just start happening. If it just started happening, that will usually raise our antenna, and we will want to investigate you for other causes.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Doc. That's a lot of food for thought for us. Heading into 2020, listen, guys, great tips. Keeping underarm odor under control. Medical internist, Dr. Samantha Nicholson-Spence, with us on 10 Minutes to Your Health. We'll do it again next Thursday. Up next, a taste of what to expect at Rebel Salute.
10 minutes to your health